Alright guys, welcome to another episode of Poncho's Paint Booth. For this week we're going to be handling the CSM, Chaos Space Marine, Master of Executions. If it'll focus... Maybe if I bring it back here. No, that's stupid. There we go. God damn it. Okay. Master of Executions. So, you get the idea. So basically, this guy, he is one of the Chaos Space Marines, which is the trader version of the, Space Marines. And now in-game, I never used one of these guys myself. I could just never find the right fit for it. And the idea is he's basically like a he's an executioner. He's a huge close combat guy. The main problem I had with him was that, he's very slow. He's just on foot. You can't give him a jetpack or anything like that. And also recently they just came out with a new edition of the game. So, and of course we're all in quarantine right now, so there's really no telling, or there's no nobody has any idea how to use this guy at the moment. Previously, people were using him as a just as another cheap HQ choice, because you could take a battalion with a certain Renegade Legion that would basically give you a lot of extra in-game command points to use on, stratagems and special rules and stuff like that. But they kind of reverse the way that works, so that's sort of out. So, I don't have a market scheme that I can use for this guy, and I'm not planning on using him as my own. So what I'm going to do with this guy is I'm going to paint him as a World Eaters Legion scheme. And when I say Legion, I don't mean the current one that's red. I'm talking about the original Legion colors that are white and blue. And then of course with all the trappings, the bones and his skin cloak and all that stuff like that. But so to start out with, his so basically the World Eater schemes is that the chest and the legs and the arms are white, and then the shoulders and his backpack are primarily blue. Sorry for all the out of focus. There we go. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to tackle the white parts first, because, honestly, white's the hardest. So to do that, we'll start off with our Dragon White. That's going to take a couple of coats. That's going to go over the legs and the chest and the arms. And then once I'm done with that, we'll hit it with the Apothecary White Contrast, which, if it ever focuses, there we go. And for the most part, that keeps it the white color, but then it also adds, some very light gray details in the recesses. So let's get this shook up nice and good. And let's get started. Alright, so that is our white base with a little bit of shading in there. I'll contrast paint. And so we're going to, as always, let that dry before we get into some of the other details. Okay, so we got some basic color down on here. We did the white, and then we did the whatchamacallit, the contrast paint to get some more shading into the recesses. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring some of the white back out. So we're going to go ahead and dry brush again with our dragon white. There we go. Following that, since that won't take very long, I'm going to go ahead and get started on the shoulder pads. And for that, let me see. I am going to put down the shoulder pads and the backpack. And also, I left, this elbow pad is also going to be blue as well. You'll see. And then for that, we're going to use a base layer of Army Painter Wow, that was almost bad. Dark Sky, followed with a hit of Drakenhof Nightshade to, again, hit the recesses. So, I'm just going to go ahead and do all that up real quick. Okay, so again, we're making some pretty good progress with the base colors. And as always with these things, we're going to go ahead and let this dry. Alright, so we got our basic blues done with this guy. Again, that's the shoulders and what else did I do? Oh yeah, part of the backpack and one of those elbows. So next, what we're going to do is a couple things, actually. I'm going to dry brush over the blue parts with a lighter blue. I'm going to be using our electric blue. And then, you'll notice that this guy has a lot of trims and such, kind of all over the place. So for that, like for example, on the trim of the shoulders, and then just a bunch of other details all on the arms and the legs and stuff like that, and some of the backpacks. So for that, we're going to be using gunmetal. So first, start off with the blue. Real quick, get some of that. And this is a dry brush, so I need this guy. Just get a little bit on. There's a little bit on the wet side, but it should be fine. And sort of just go over the whole thing. And it does have a nice dry brush. Even works on flatter surfaces, or I guess in this case it's a rounder surface, but yeah, it's a nice interesting grainy look, which is fine. Let's see, this shoulder, I don't think I'm going to be able to, yeah, because it's too recessed, so I'm not even going to waste time trying to dry brush that. However, this backpack has plenty of spots that can benefit from a little bit of dry brushing. There we go, so you can see some of the edges are starting to come out. And last, is this elbow pad here. Alright, that should do it for that. So now we will go ahead and drop in a nice layer of our gunmetal. And again, the nice thing about these paints is you really only need to get one layer in because the thickness is like just right where it'll go on with one coat as long as I shake it up enough. But it won't be so thick that I lose any details. Alright, so all prepped, let's get started. So we got our blues and our silvers down. Now the blue, or not silver, but metal. Alright, so the blue, I'm pretty much done. I'm done with both of these colors, actually. So now the only thing left is to get a little bit of texture into these metal parts that I put down. So in order to do that, we'll go ahead and hit it with our Nuln oil. And this is a pretty good, this wash goes very good with silverish and metal metallics. So that is what, well, that's what we will do. That's what I'm doing, obviously. This won't take too long, so I'll just let you guys see it in real time. As you can see, the even just going on wet, the wash is well, it gives the metal a nice worn out look, and more importantly, it makes it well, it adds more contrast and detail because otherwise, anytime you just leave something with like a flat color, it looks, well, it looks like shit, and it looks kind of cartoonish and less realistic, which is the opposite of what I'm going for. So, got the chest there. Now for these shoulder pads, or shoulder trims. Don't want to forget the inside either. And this side. And, you know, surprisingly, this guy actually does not have. There's a lot of Chaos Marine models that have a lot more trim than this one, especially like some of the Demon engines and the bigger vehicles and such. So fortunately, this guy is not as bad with the trims. So you just got this one leg left. Just bear with me. Bear with me. Also, oh yeah. Just a couple parts on the axe. Okay. So we will let some of this stuff dry, and then we will move on to other parts. Alright, so we got our base colors and our trim colors done on Homeboy here. Next we're going to start getting into some more esoteric and gory details on this guy. So what I want to focus on next is going to be anything that's bone related and skin related. And leather too, actually. So first I'll start with the bone stuff. You can see there's a few like these spikes and skulls on his backpack. And then also, he's got a couple heads that he's holding in his hand here, one of which is partially exposed. Yeah, this front one right here. It's like half skin, half skull. And let me see what... Oh yeah, and then of course his shoulder has some ribs, and his left shin. And is there anything... And a little bit on his belt, and chest, and just everywhere. For that, I'm going to start in by filling those areas with our bone color with white. Let's see. And then after that, I'll do some more of the skin and leather stuff, which I'll just do all at once because it's all going to be shaded the same. So let's go ahead and do these bone colors real quick. Okay, I had a little bit of technical difficulties. My recording actually got cut off because I forgot to clear enough space, but in that time, I went ahead and I've gotten all the bone colors painted up, and that was, again, with our Drake's Tooth from Army Painter. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start on the various flesh parts on this model, and for that we're going to use another Army Painter color, Cobalt Skin, which, if you haven't seen by now, it's kind of what I'm using brand wise for the most part. So let's get some of this down, and this is probably going to take a couple coats as well to get it just right. So I will let you enjoy. colors down. Basic, ooh, excuse me. Some of the, the base skin tone face. And then there's also sort of like a bunch of living pipes around. So there's a few here on his backpack. And then there's also a few, once it goes back into focus, that kind of go underneath the armor here. And then, of course, some spots on his cloak. I'm making the this regular skin color. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hit the leather parts. And to do that, we'll be using oak brown, which is my darker brown, and then, of course, leather brown, which is lighter. So, for the oak, I'm going to do his hood that he's wearing, because he's got like an executioner's hood, and then a few patches on the cloak that he's wearing. And then the rest is going to be a few patches of leather, and then also this handle here. Almost the parts that are wrapped around the shaft, I'm also going to make that the leather brown. So let's go ahead and do that. Right, that is all of these brownish colors down. You can tell I had to do the darker brown. I had to do a few coats because it was a little bit more difficult and more viscous, so I had to. They could be a pain to shake up sometimes. I know I can get like ball bearings put in these bottles, but I'm not really even entirely sure how to open these, so I'm not gonna do that. But last thing is to go over everything with our Agrax Earthshade, which is quite a bit in this case since I already did all of the bones and then some of the leather. So I should be able to do all of this right now. And also you want to make sure that whenever you're applying shades that whatever's underneath is already dry, because otherwise it'll, mix and spread and it won't look right. So I will start with the bones and the skin tones first, because I did those first, so they're the most likely to actually be dry. And then this dark brown is going to have to be last, because it is a little wetter for whatever reason. Also, this lighter leather was pretty even, so it dries up nicely and evenly. So just a little bit more. also don't want to get too much, otherwise it gets stuck in between. And the other side. Nice guy about this. Yeah, this guy having a lot of bones and similar details is that it's pretty easy to get, you know, a good-looking model just by throwing a wash over everything. As you can already start to see, in fact. And then all I'll really have to do, especially with the bones and the skin, is to dry brush over them again, and that'll really make everything good looking. Let's see what else. Do these heads real quick. And the hair I will have to do something else with eventually, but I got time to figure that out. And then of course this big old cloak. Over. Get this nice and washed over. Also on the inside. And then last but not least, the axe handle. Maybe a little much, but that'll be fine. And there we go. So we got a bunch of... Oh, you know what? I almost forgot the most important part, which is the head. So let's get a little bit of wash on there. Especially with faces, you don't want to go on too thick, so otherwise you'll start losing some of the detail. Even though in general, you know, washes or shades, I mean, they're pretty good at drying nice and evenly, so you don't really lose too much detail, but at the same time, you still don't want to go overboard with it. So there we have that for now. Got a nice bit of detail going on over the model. And then of course we're going to let this guy dry out so that we can dry brush some more detail later. Alright, so the Agrax Earth Shade is pretty much all dried up now. And, well, it is actually. So now we just gotta go ahead and go back in and dry brush some of these parts. And I'm actually gonna go ahead and start with the kobold skin. Actually, first I'm gonna turn my light on. There we go. So this I'm gonna use mostly on the cloak, because that's the biggest area that needs it the most. And then also some on the heads here as well. So, a little bit of skin. And I'm also going to dry brush over the darker browns that I put on the cloak because, well, they're also meant to be sort of different shades of skin. So you do want a little bit of a uniformity going on here. And as you can already see, it's bringing back some of the, or bringing out some of the edges and details. And it's obviously a little more pronounced on the darker browns, but, you know, that's okay too. Because these edges will help bring even more character to the model, which is the point. So, and on this side. Actually, I suppose it is a little bit hard to see from the camera, but alright, I think that'll do it for the cloak, and then I'll just do these faces real quick, or these severed heads. And then normally, I would also do this for, you see there should be, yeah, brings out some of the edges and the heads and such. And normally I would also do this for the face, but he doesn't really have much of a face showing, so I'm not gonna worry about that. However, what I will do is my next dry brush color is going to be to go back in with the leather brown. Let's see, where was this? Put that away, and then this is going to go over his axe handle, his hood, and then also his pistol holder that he's got in the back here. So, just a little bit of that. Rub it down. Okay, that might be actually, brush is a little too wet still, which happens plenty. Let's try that again. There we go. Where was it? Okay, let's do the hood first. So we're mostly just catching kind of the natural edges of the cranium here. And a little bit more on the front there. And it's not overtly obvious, but you see there's just like a little bit more depth in the head. And then the last thing, or actually, so get some edges on this pistol in the back here. Which again won't be a whole lot since it's the base color is the same as the dry brush color. But it will, again, it'll give us just a little bit back. And then, of course, on the handle. So you can kind of see that it's giving us a little bit of highlights in the wrappings of the handle. And that's all we really need, just a little bit. Alright, and then the last thing I'm going to do is to dry brush over all these bones that we painted earlier. And for that, we're going to go back into our Drake's Tooth color, which is the same one we used for bones. And now, what was I going to say? If you really wanted to, you could also just do pure white with the bones, but I find that it looks a little bit unnatural. If I just go over it with the same color, it's, I don't know if you can see it here that much, but it does bring back, it's a more natural highlight rather than white, which is just too pronounced. If that makes any sense. I mean, I'd show you, but, you know, obviously I'm trying to make a finished product here. This isn't a test or anything like that. Just take my word for it. All right, I'm the one making the video, not you. All right. Bit on the belt and then on the shin. And last, we got these big spikes up here and skulls. There. And that is that's all I really needed to do with that. So now, might as well get into, and I think, you know what I'm actually going to do next is, you can see that there's, on this cloak, he's got a bunch of stitching. So, in order to cover that, let's get one of my gray colors out. I'll go with field gray, which is our medium gray. Get rid of this. And what I'm going to do with this is just sort of really lightly go over the stitching. A little bit lighter than that. There we go. And then that way we just kind of have an even color across the board. And since it's really just like a light brushing, I won't need to go back in. See, I got a little bit too much paint in my thing, but that happens. So there, it's just basically I just kind of have a hint of gray going there, and it's just to give it again, for uniformity, like an actual color rather than something that stands out a little bit too much. Just a little bit more. Perfect. You know what I'm actually going to do, since I've got so much gray, a lot more came out, there's also a little bit of odd chainmail under some of the armors, like here in the corner of the shoulder plate. And then there was also some, yeah, same sides, and then down here by the legs. So, there we go. And actually, now that I think about it, I think I might, well, you know what? There's actually some other spots I can use this for. So this axe head, I was planning on doing like a stone. I wanted to make it look like a big piece of stone, and then maybe add in like a fiery or pseudo energy effect later with like a bit of edging. So I'll actually go ahead and use the same field gray. Should give us a nice color. Yeah, that's a nice and rocky color, especially because I'm going to be going over this with the black shade as well, so that'll darken this up nicely. That's not too shabby. And yes, that's a nice base color for the axe head. And then I will go ahead and add in second coat, just so we have a nice even covering on this thing, and there should be no primer showing through. Here we go. Solid gray. I might have to go over it again, just in a couple spots. But so far so good. Yeah, that should do it for the gray. Alright, you may have noticed a little bit of a jump just now. I paused so I could clean up a little bit and just to let this gray dry a little bit. So now what I'm going to do is I'll go ahead and add our bleh. That's such a weird color, or weird label. Nuln oil shade. It's going to go over those small bits of chainmail, and then I'll go over the whole axe head with it. Just kind of get it on there nice and thick. So, let's get back of the shoulder, front of the shoulder, and on the chainmail this just works to just get a little bit of extra detail on there, especially in the holes and the links. I don't know how well you can see it from there. There we go. Alright, now let's get this axe head going, and this will help add some recessed details, especially along the curve of the axe head, or the blade of the axe head, and then also along the edges. I'll just slather it on nice and thick. I may have overdone it, but yeah, it'll be fine. Yeah, so some of this will actually kind of drip down. Actually, you know what? Let's do this. I'll lay it on its side like that, so it'll dry, hopefully a little bit more evenly. And that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna let this thing dry, and then, as always, keep going, adding more details. Alrighty, so this guy's coming along pretty nicely now. We've got a lot of the we got all the base stuff done, and we got a lot of the major details done. So now we're getting into a lot of the smaller details. So this next chunk is going to cover several of these. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to get a head start on the base, and to do that, we're going to use we're going to go back to our hardened carapace. That's our dark gray, and then I do have. Let's see, I did have yeah. So I got while he's holding these heads here, I'm going to go ahead and do up their hair with ash gray, which is our lighter gray. And then last, I got this, well, I don't have anything, but he has this Space Marine helmet on the middle spike here on his backpack. So what we're going to do with that is we're going to paint it sick green, which is our dark green. And then, well, there's a few more details that I'm going to be hitting in this video, but I'm going to do these up first. So just sit back and check it out. that's a pretty good start with this guy. See, I don't need the green anymore, or either of these. So yeah, like I said, we got some basic color on the base, a little bit on the hair on the heads, and a nice green for this helmet. So now what I want to do is I'm going to work on the effects on this axe head that I mentioned earlier. So what we're going to do is first it's going to be a heavier dry brush with our orange fire, and then a slightly lighter dry brush with demonic yellow. And then once that's all done, I'm going to real quick hit the hair with our Nuln oil, give it some structure or some texture. And then we'll go over the helmet with our green shade, Coelia green shade. This is a darker one as well, to do the same thing with the helmet. So let's go ahead and get all that started. There we go, small details. So once again, that was getting some shade on the his helmet on his trophy rack up here. That's the word I was looking for before. Same with the hair on these severed heads. And then getting a little bit of a glowy effect in the axe here. Now, I don't want to say that I purposely made it or could take credit for all of the coloring. I actually had a little bit of a trouble because the yellow was a little bit runnier than I wanted. But, you know, if it looks good, leave it. Right, this guy is very close to being done or finished. The only thing that we really have left that I'm going to do, at least on the actual model itself, is you'll notice that on this axe here, there is some trim, kind of like right here along the inside of the head of the axe, and then also a little bit down here at the hilt. So we got that going for us. And then I am also going to do a little bit of work on the base. What I did not realize is I need to... you know what? I'm not going to do that. So what I've been doing for my chaos bases is kind of like a dirt and... Yeah, kind of like a dirt and ash theme. Well, mostly ash. And so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to hit a few spots of this with GW's Astro Granite. And what this is this is a texture paint, so it has like sand or a similar granule material that, well, gives us texture. And it also takes a while to dry. So I'm going to do both of these at the same time and, you know, enjoy. go. We got the last major detail, well, the last detail period on the main body of the model finished, and I got some texture down on the base. And the nice thing with this paint is you can kind of clump it up a bit and, you know, build it up some. So what we're going to do is let that dry, and then I'll do a little bit more extra effects over the texture to really make it stand out. And then, let's see, after that, then I got some ash that I'm going to glue onto this guy, and that'll be that. So, again, we'll let this dry, and we'll go from there. Alright guys, we are on the home stretch with this guy. So yeah, we basically, all we have left is the base to do on him. Now, earlier I went ahead and textured the base up with our handy dandy texture paints. And then off camera, I went ahead and put in some Nuln Oil wash all across the base to kind of get some detail in the recesses of all the sand. And well, I did that off camera just because I didn't want to do another video and then cut it again, because you gotta wait to let that stuff dry. So all that's left now is I'm gonna go ahead and dry brush over the base with you know what, let's use a lighter color actually. I'll dry brush with dark sea gray. It's one of the middle gray. It's like one of the two middle grays that I have. This one's a little bit lighter, so it'll show up better, and that'll bring out some of the like all the edges in the dirt texture here. And then, well, let's go ahead and do that right now, because that will be very quick. It won't take any time at all. Just got a little bit there. Okay, this might be a little bit on the wet end, but I think we'll make do. So yeah, just right away, you can kind of see it's, once that stops moving, well, you get the idea. But it's bringing out the edges of the dirt, you can see, which is what we want. More dynamic is always, almost always better with models, because even though something that's supposed to have like a darker theme or like a sneaky theme, you still want it to stand out and look good, because otherwise your models just look like shit, and nobody wants that, especially when they're representing you. Alright, so that is finished. So now we move on to the last and fun part, and that is going to be to apply some ash to the base. So this is technically, this is grass, but it's more like a burnt grass, not real glass, or grass, but just that just that type of whatever it's called. And now, since this base is small, I don't really have to. I actually do not need the spoon, fortunately. So what I'm going to do, so I just get some super glue and start applying it to some of the areas that I did not texture a little bit more liberally, depending. And all I really got to do is just scoop the base through and tap out a bunch of stuff. And easy peasy, got ash on the base. And what's nice is with methods like these, you can you can pretty much add texture to. Well, you could add just about anything to the base and then just put ash or something similar over it. So I use this same method with anything that has like dirt or grass on dirt or sand or anything like that. Not so much snow, but I actually have a different compound for that, but that's a different video. And hopefully I can do it without spilling all over the place. But yeah, ash on the base. That's all there is to it. And now, of course, gotta make sure that we clean up everything, so don't need ashes and stuff all over my workspace. And there you have it. That is one Chaos Marine. There we go, a little bit better. Maybe. One Chaos Marine, Master of Executions, World Eaters, paint scheme, finished. Is it showing up good? Perfect. So, if you like this video, go see some of my previous videos on the Poncho's Paint Booth channel in the Multi-Murdy Media YouTube channel. Also, stay tuned for more videos. And if you want to see some of my other content, also look up Multi-Murdy Media on Instagram. I also have a podcast that I have both on iTunes and several other places that you can get podcasts, and also the videos on another playlist on this channel. And I will also, as of posting this, I will also soon have a video game / Twitch channel, so be on the lookout for the Gutsy Ass Gamer playlist. And as always, thanks for watching. Stay tuned. There's going to be plenty more.